We will be reading a book on the third verse of Sixth Astika, Pranada Vishwanichana. His Holiness Guru Govinda Swami Maharaj has written a whole book on that verse, so we will be reading after we finish this. Here, at the end of Manahasiksha, Raghunath Das Goswami described the ultimate goal of intimate service to the divine couple. While every jiva has an individual eternal service, these five categories are general directions for everyone. Bhakti Vinod, in his commentary to this verse, also explains the application of these five life-giving service in terms of external devotional activities we do while in this world. As he does throughout Manahasiksha, Raghunath Das Goswami uses an analogy here. He tells us to drink these five services as if they were a medicinal nectar to free us from death. The service is thus internalized, feeling us completely comparing devotional service to a life-giving nectar. And comparing the doing of such service to drinking the nectar is an often used metaphor in Vaishnava literature, as in this Bhagavatam verse 2 to 37. Those who drink through oral receptions fully fill with the nectarian message of Lord Krishna, the beloved of the devotees, purifying the polluted aim of life, known as material enjoyment, and thus go back to Godhead, to the lotus feet of Him. This section of Bhakti Vinod's commentary to verse 11, wherein he discussed Jiva Goswami stages of meditation, is important for Bhakti yogis at all stages of progress. The essence of Bhakti is to change one's consciousness. We are fill our mind, heart, intelligence, and ultimately our very self with awareness of Krishna. Those who aim for perfection in Dhyana Yoga try to reach Samadhi mostly through a mechanical process of posture, breathing, and so forth. The Samadhi of the Bhakti yogis, however, is different. In Bhakti, one achieves full absorption of consciousness in Krishna through love. Materially speaking, all of us have experienced situations where our consciousness becomes absorbed in someone or something because of strong emotional attachments. We can become so saturated with meditations, we lose awareness of all else. Similarly, in Bhakti, we seek to channel all our emotions, all our attachments, all our desire to Krishna, to his devotees and their service. By doing so, we naturally and easily enter into the transcendental awareness, awake to reality and asleep to illusions. So only one verse will be left, verse number 12. We will be dwelling on verse number 12 from tomorrow. and commentary by Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj. We will start. And then we will read from the present Acharya's then commentary. So then we will finish this book. Ribol, I'm gonna try to find out where we have to read from tomorrow. So just bear with me. Let me put the bookmark. Yes, right there. And just to read the translation on verse number 12. Becoming a follower of Sri Rupa and his companion, one who with a sweet voice loudly recites these 11 supreme verses, which gives instructions to the mind and strive to understand all of their meanings completely, obtains the incomparable joy of worshipping Sri Sri Radha Krishna in the forest of Gokul. So now we will be dwelling in the life of Srila Prabhupada. We are on volume number 5, chapter number 2, titled No One Listened to a Poor Man. It's been a couple of days, so we will read one whole paragraph. Then in November, Mr. N offered to sell ISKCON 5 acres in Juhu, practically on the shore of the Arabian Sea. As soon as Srila Prabhupada approached the land, he remembered having seen and considered it years before. In August of 1965, during the weeks just before he had left for America, he had been staying at Scindia Colony. In the evening, he had gone to the home of Scindia Steamship Company owner, Mrs. Sumati Morarji in Juhu, where he had read and explained Srimad Bhagavatam for her and her guest. Several times he had passed this very property and had thought what a good location it would be for an ashram and a Radha Krishna temple. Although his attention had been absorbed in this task of leaving India, he had still considered the Juhu land. Now he was again in Juhu, reconsidering the same land he had noticed years before. He took it as a reminder from Krishna. That's where we left, so we continue. The land was overgrown with tall grasses and bushes, and many coconut palms stood throughout. In the back of the property were several tenements buildings. The land bordered on Juhu Road, the main traffic artery back to Bombay, 18 miles to the south. A broad expanse of beach on the Arabian Sea was a brief walk away. The location was good, peaceful, yet not remote. Several five-star hotels bordered the nearby beach, and developers were beginning work on other hotels and apartment buildings. When Prabhupada walked along the beach, he liked even more the idea of buying the land. Rich men had weekend home on the beach, and thousands of Bombayites would be out enjoying the beach on Sundays. Daily, hundreds of Juhu residents used the long, broad seashore for morning walks before going to work. Almost always, People were strolling or gathering there, and yet the beach was clean. The mild waves and the open skies were inviting. The local was ideal not only for hotels, but for a Krishna conscious center. Prabhupada wanted the Juhulan, and although his disciple continued to show him houses in Malbar Hill, he didn't change his mind. His disciple wanted whatever he wanted. Yet they had trouble developing enthusiasm for a property so far from the city and with no available housing or temple facility. So Mr. Nair, the owner of the 5-acre plot, had set a reasonable price and seemed friendly and sincere. Yet risks were involved in such transactions. And in this case, Prabhupada even found reason for suspicion. Through his lawyer, he learned that Mr. N had previously entered into an agreement to sell this same land to the C company, but had later canceled the agreement. The C company had then filed a suit against Mr. N for breach of contract. If the Bombay High Court decided in the C company's favor, the land would be awarded to them. When Prabhupada's secretary questioned Mr. N about this entanglement, Mr. N assured him that the C company should not win the suit, but that in any case, ISKCON could withhold a certain portion of their payment until the litigation with C was settled. Mr. N was a well-known figure in Bombay, formerly the Sheriff of Bombay, an honorary judicial police position, and he was now publisher-editor of one of the largest daily English newspaper in Bombay. He was wealthy, owning several properties in Juhu and Bombay, and influential, not a man one would want to oppose. To purchase the Juhu land under the present circumstances required boldness. In late December, Prabhupada met with Mr. and Mrs. N at their home in Theosophical Colony in Juhu. Mr. N's home was on the beach, and thus the visit afforded Prabhupada another opportunity to appreciate the value and beauty of Juhu Beach, with its border of palm leaning toward the sea. The Theosophical Colony was a private neighborhood of attractive homes with luxurious lawn and flower garden and many exotic birds. Asoka trees grew on either side of Mr. N driveway, and a line of palm trees standing just inside the massive stone wall encircled the property. A gardener opened the gate for Prabhupada and the few disciples with him. Mr. N was a short, stocky man with a receding hairline. His hair was clipped short, and his round face was pockmarked. He appeared to be in his 50s. Mr. N had a fair complexion and, unusual for an Indian, wore her hair short. Prabhupada had brought flower garland and prasadam from the Radha Krishna deities of ISKCON Bombay, and this he offered to Mr. and Mrs. N. Mr. N invited his guests to sit with him and his wife on the front porch, which faced a picturesque garden. Srila Prabhupada openly expressed his appreciation of the Juhu land, but admitted he had very little money. Mr. N, however, seemed inclined toward Prabhupada and said he wanted to sell him the property. Quickly, they reached a verbal agreement. To Mrs. N, however, the agreement seems too liberal, but when she objected, her husband overruled her. Prabhupada and Mr. N agreed on a down payment of 200,000 rupees. After making the down payment, ISKCON would immediately receive the conveyance. ISKCON would pay the remaining balance of 1,400,000 rupees later in a regular installment. Prabhupada negotiated further regarding the down payment, offering to pay 50,000 rupees now and another 50,000 later, at which time ISKCON would be allowed to move onto the land. As soon as they paid the remaining 100,000 rupees, the down payment would be complete, and Mr. N would give them the deed. Mr. N agreed. So Srila Prabhupada was always one to think carefully over such business transactions. He had said that if a businessman tells you, quote, "Sir, for you I'm making no profit," unquote, you should know he is lying. Therefore, even in ISKCON's early days in New York City, when the real estate shark Mr. Price had posed as a well-wisher of the devotees, Prabhupada had been suspicious. Mr. Price had in fact cheated the devotees, despite of Prabhupada's warning to them. Now, as then, Prabhupada was suspicious, but he wanted the Juhu land and would take the risk. Prabhupada had taken similar chances at Jhansi in 1953. He had occupied a building, although he had had little legal standing or financial security. And his first storefront in New York, as well as in his largest building to date, the Watseka Avenue Church in Los Angeles, he had moved in without assurance of the monthly payments. Practically, the entire success of his movement had come by his taking one risk after another for Krishna. When the devotees in Boston had written to Prabhupada that they had rented a big house for $1,000 a month, calculating that they would be able to make the payment by dramatically increasing their back to Godhead souls, Prabhupada had approved and had even commended their example to others. So if some risk were involved in Bombay, that was only natural. Once committed to the land, Prabhupada began to unfold his vision for a grand project in Bombay. On December 22nd, he wrote to Yamuna Mataji as follows. Here in Bombay, we have got good prospect to purchase a very large land in Juhu for very cheap price, just in the middle of such neighborhood. We shall build our camp there and begin constructing a temple immediately. And later on, we shall develop a large hotel and school. There is also a chance of getting a nice bungalow in Bombay city also. So in general, we shall make our headquarters in Bombay and also build up Vrindavan and Mayapur. While devotees around the world delighted to hear Prabhupada's plan for a Bombay center, devotees in Bombay had mixed feelings. To envision a temple rising from what was a little more than a jungle tract was not easy. Nor was it easy to envision the five-star ISKCON hotel Prabhupada speak of. The tenement building in the rear of the land were fully occupied, and according to the Indian law, the tenants could not be removed. If the devotees moved on the land, they would have to erect temporary housing, maybe even a temporary temple. And the land was mosquito-ridden and teeming with rats. Juhu was a small, almost isolated neighborhood without wealthy ISKCON supporters. Although Prabhupada, in the parentheses, and land speculators, unquote, predicted that Juhu would grow, at present it was only a village of about 2,000. To reside at Juhu would be a drastic contrast to the comfortable Akash Ganga building in downtown Bombay. Tamal Krishna explained to Prabhupada, quote, "We are Westerners. We cannot live like this. We need doorknobs and running water," unquote. Quote, "Don't you want to become purified?" Prabhupada replied. When the Bombay devotees learned of Srila Prabhupada's response to Tamal Krishna, the verse, "Don't you want to become purified?" went deep into their hearts. They knew that Prabhupada was asking them to become more austere and that it was for their ultimate benefit. They began to regard moving to Juhu as a formidable spiritual challenge rather than a drudgery. Developing the Juhu property was important to their spiritual master, and it was something greater and more wonderful than they at present realize. Prabhupada knew he was asking his disciple to make a great sacrifice, but he could not avoid it. To preach Krishna consciousness, a devotee had to be prepared to tolerate many difficulties. And whatever difficulty he was asking his disciple to undertake, he was prepared to undertake to a much greater degree himself. On the one hand, he didn't think that living on the undeveloped Juhu property would be too difficult for his disciple, provided they maintained cleanliness and chanted Hare Krishna. Yet he knew that because they were Vaishnavas, they would find it hard. A preacher nevertheless had to make sacrifices, not artificially or arbitrarily, but to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. Sometimes serving Krishna was pleasurable, sometimes difficult. In either case, a devotee had but to do the needful, acting as a menial servant of the spiritual master. Prabhupada concealed his Bombay disciple, impressing on them his vision for ISKCON Bombay. Although all of them were ready to follow his decision, some of them had been feeling doubtful and weak-hearted. Seeing the spiritual master's commitment to the project, however, they vowed to give up their separatist mentalities. Prabhupada then left for Jaipur for a week's preaching engagement at the Radha Govinda temple. So this is a new episode, Jaipur, January 12th, 1972. Jaipur is an ancient city in the state of Rajasthan. Occasionally, some of Prabhupada's disciples would go there to purchase marble Radha Krishna deities for ISKCON temple in India and around the world. The devotees in ISKCON Center in Detroit, Toronto, Dallas, as well as throughout Europe, wanted to install Radha Krishna deities, and with Srila Prabhupada's permission, were ordering murtis from Jaipur. On such an errand, two women, Kaushalya and Srimati, had gone to Jaipur in January of 1972 on behalf of the New York City temple. When a government official had discovered Srimati wasn't carrying her passport, the official, suspicious of spies due to the war with Pakistan, had insisted the woman stay in town until Srimati's passport arrived in the mail. Meanwhile, the girls had daily visited the Govindji's temple and had sometimes held kirtan in the street in front of the temple. They had had daily talks with P.K. Goswami, who was in charge of the temple, as well as Jaipur businessmen and other respectable citizens. In parentheses, almost everyone in Jaipur regularly visits the beloved deities of Radha Govinda. Parentheses over. The citizens of Jaipur had been moved by the devotion of Prabhupada's two disciples. And when one of the men had asked, quote, "What can we do to help your movement?" unquote, the girls had replied, quote, "Bring Srila Prabhupada here," unquote. Some of the Jaipur's prominent citizens had devised a plan to share expense and responsibilities in arranging a pandal program. And the two women had sent a letter to Prabhupada in Bombay, inviting him to come and preach, and he had agreed. At Srila Prabhupada's request, devotees from Delhi and other Indian centers came to Jaipur to join him. Prabhupada took a small room within the Govindji temple compound, and his disciple moved into a nearby house. Prabhupada liked the location. The only disturbance was that many monkeys, large charcoal-faced monkeys with long curling tails, climbing through the trees and across the rooftops. They would scamper down unexpectedly to steal whatever they could. The women cooking for Prabhupada were exasperated by the monkeys' bold forays to steal vegetables from the kitchen. Even chapatis right off the fire, and they complained to Srila Prabhupada. Quote, "Neither be their friends nor their enemies," unquote, Prabhupada advice. Quote, "If you make friends with them, they will simply be a nuisance. And if you become their enemies, they will become very vindictive. Just maintain a neutral position, unquote. The monkeys, however, continue to raid the kitchen again, and cooks complain to Srila Prabhupada. Yes, Prabhupada says, if you want to stop the monkeys, then this is what you must do. Purchase one bow and arrow and shoot a monkey on the top of a tree with the arrow. And then, when he falls down, take the monkeys and hang them upside down by the leg to a branch of a tree. And next to him, you also hang the bow and arrow. This will teach them. Unquote. Prabhupada knew that shooting monkey was illegal in Jaipur, and he did not expect his disciple to actually shoot them. But he delivered the advice with a serious expression. Indirectly, he was advising them not to be so upset over a few monkeys. I think its time has come. We should be punctual. 6:54. And before the devotees leave, we would like to offer our humble obeisances at the dusk of their feet by uttering Vanchikalpatarubhasya Kripasindubhaya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaisnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So thank you very much, all the wonderful devotees, for your kind association in the morning. And if Krishna so desire, we will be here before 2 o'clock, or you can join at your convenient time. Before we close our session, I'll give 10 seconds if anybody has any question, comment, correction, chastisement, suggestions, or any reflections. Here is the 10 seconds. Haribol.